Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar discussing what Google's latest announcement means for all of us. As most of you might know, last week Google announced that they might not deprecate cookies now in Chrome for a while or indefinitely. And it has had the whole industry wondering what that means and all of us discussing constantly what changes and what doesn't change. So that's what we want to talk about today, what that means for all of us. And with me, I have Jack Pace. Jack, I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jack. I'm the director of martech and data strategy at Zion and Zion. So our team is really focused on the development of data strategies for our clients, mainly focused on zero-party data and first-party data, as well as the larger martech ecosystem that is used to leverage that data. So a lot of work within CDPs, web analytics tools, data centralization and data warehouses and cloud enablement. So all things that we do with data, we do here under the martech and data strategy team.
That's awesome. That sounds cool. Okay, and my name is Saf Ketan. I'm director of product marketing and strategy at Tealium, and we want to go through this in a few categories. So let's just start first with the reaction, right? So Jack, I want to start with, you read this news Monday morning last week. What was your reaction? First reaction, first thoughts? I would love to hear that.
Yeah, not surprised. I don't think anybody in the industry was really surprised about this news. Google has been getting a lot of pressure to eliminate third-party cookies, similar to what all the other browsers are doing. But as we know, the ad tech ecosystem is still heavily reliant on those tools. And Google has been coming out with new methodologies, such as the privacy sandbox, with protected audiences. And I think Google was doing potentially too much all at once with the privacy sandbox, with the deprecation of third-party cookies. So yeah, I don't think anybody was really surprised about this news. And I'm very excited about it because a lot of brands have already made a lot of positive momentum towards their first-party data strategies and their zero-party data strategies. And hopefully that will continue. And Google will be able to decouple the privacy sandbox with the third-party cookie deprecation so that they can really build a solution that's going to work in the long term. So yeah, nobody's really surprised about this news.
Yeah, I have to echo that. I think what surprised me was the timing, just because they really were trying. I feel that Google made a very honest effort to solve this, but they are such a big core of the ad industry. And like you said, I like how you phrased that, the privacy sandbox and deprecating the third party cookie became one conversation when they're really two different conversations. In fact, Chrome and privacy sandbox are two independent technologies in many ways. So I think they have decoupled it, which is good for us and for them. I think they have not been able to make the regulators and the ad industry satisfied with the solutions that they have put forward yet, even though they are really good solutions in many ways. I don't think we've seen the end state. And and they have said in their blog post that they are still committed to the privacy sandbox and they're going to still see that through. So I'm very curious to see where that goes and how that plays out. But for now, Chrome will stay as it is today, and they will add an opt-in option for or opt-out option for customers to be able to just say that we don't want to be tracked and we don't have cookies, and by default the cookies will be on. Whereas in Apple, I think the default is cookies are off. That's the main difference. But that's the path they have chosen. Okay, so, and I agree with you in many ways. I don't think anybody's completely shocked, but at the same time, just because they've been trying so earnestly, especially this year, they had like 4 different announcements come out. I was expecting that it would go a little bit further, but the ad industry's reaction in January when they turned off 1% of the cookies was insane. So it felt like it wasn't the solution that everybody wanted.
Yeah, and Google's stuck in a hard place, right? They're dealing not just in the US, not just in the EU, they're global. So they have to satisfy the requirements of regulators and meet the consumers where they want to be as well. They're becoming so much more aware of data privacy and how their data is being used. And Apple was a very big catalyst in this movement. I think, back when ITP was first announced in, 2017 or somewhere around then, everyone became hyper aware of it. I don't think that had Apple not done that, we wouldn't be having these conversations because, users were always aware of this weird thing where, hey, I'm talking about this company and now I'm getting ads for it. People were aware of that. Apple definitely, put some urgency across the industry to kind of flip it and figure out a better methodology to preserve that privacy. But we also have to focus on, okay, well, what are brands going to do? Because they still need to run their business. They still need to acquire and retain customers. So that there needs to be something that these brands are doing to help engage with those customers in a privacy compliant way, but also in a transparent way to really build that trust with those customers.
Yeah, so I that's a great point. So let's dig in on that a little bit. First, let me understand, what does this mean for brands today in terms of technology? The third-party cookie, on the one hand, was a shortcut and a easy button for them to just access the whole ad tech industry. That's already been gone for a little while. They're already down to almost half, like you said, because of Apple's decision. So what does this announcement mean for brands and from a ad tech point of view for right now?
Yeah. Brands need to focus on customers and not cookies. And that's a big thing that we at Z&Z are pushing forward, because while Google is saying, hey, we're going to postpone this a little bit, there's still so much more of the ecosystem that extends beyond cookies. We have other browsers that are cracking down, eliminating third-party cookies, restricting first-party cookies. We have devices now. We have phones, tablets, OTT devices, refrigerators that are connected to the internet. We have so many devices that don't have cookies. So it was inherently a weak system that a lot of people were reliant on. We saw, with technologies such as CAPI, the conversion APIs, while third-party cookies still existed, we saw huge lifts in addressable conversions or attributed conversions facilitated through conversion APIs. So even while we had third-party cookies, we saw massive lifts with the migration over to first-party technologies. So what brands need to do is not get back into that comfort zone of saying, hey, we still have third-party cookies, we're going to keep going business as usual. No, keep that momentum going that we built over the last 4 years, pushing forward with those first-party data strategies, and adopt solutions where if you still need to reach consumers that are in that unknown space, use other technologies rather than just enriching with third-party data. Work more with contextual targeting and doing tons of experimentation to find out what's working and what's not working. If we think about CPG, some CPG brands have been very, very forward-moving, forward-thinking with gathering more first-party data. But there are other CPGs that are still lagging on that front. But those that are taking advantage of cohort strategies, of contextual targeting, especially in the realm of retail media networks, there's so much more opportunity there where we're not still reliant on third-party cookies. We're more reliant on what is that consumer doing in that time and in that space, and getting your ads, getting your messaging in front of them where that context is relevant to them through those cohorts and through those contextual targeting. there are other tools out there like Ramp ID and UID 2.0 that are coming out there as, alternative identifiers. But as we know with those, they're still heavily reliant on, things like email address and hashed email. So while we still have room, we still have wiggle room, you're going to be able to reach more of those customers if you're testing those different types of strategies, trying your best to give them reason to give you their email address so that you can reach them better through those technologies such as the alternate identifiers.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. Yeah, so if I can summarize, we've been in this situation for a while now. Apple's change happened in 2017 to 2019, and the fact is, even today, most brands across the world have not 100% coverage with the third-party cookie. They have about 50%. Then you factor in ad blockers. Then you factor in just the increasing opt-out rates that people have with data privacy, because like you were saying, they have started to understand what sharing this data means from a privacy and a safety point of view. So they don't share openly. They will share when they trust the brand, but otherwise they are hesitant now. So I think if you factor in all those things, brands have no choice now but to invest heavily in first-party data. And you think about data privacy and AI, and you start realizing that you have no choice but to go towards first-party data. So message for the audience, Google's decision is not going to reverse anything. If anything, we'll stay where we are right now. I think it actually keep shifting towards first-party data, maybe a little bit slower, but it will keep shifting. We're not going to go backwards. So even if you don't do anything else, you have to embrace first-party data today to do all the strategies that Jack was just talking about, and to address your high-value customers that are sitting in the Apple ecosystem anyway. So
the AI point, I mean, that's a huge, everyone's trying to break into AI right now. And from the projects that we've done in the AI space, and it's kind of a aha duh moment, is the more clean first party data you have, the better your models will be. And we saw that with and we presented this at Digital Velocity with our Closet Factory client, where we took call tracking data and modeled off of that and did categorization. But the more of that first party data that we have that's clean, in a usable state, the stronger those models become. And as we know, the future is AI and using these types of technologies. So right now is to your point, it's critical for brands, from small to big, is to gather that first party data, especially to facilitate those AI use cases down the line, but also open up opportunities for on-site personalization, email marketing, and getting that message to the customer at the right time and the right place. It's through knowing your customer. It's through asking questions. And we found that, a colleague of mine, Amanda Johnson, did a paper on zero-party data that 75% of customers are willing to share their data with brands if they trust, if they have positive experiences with them, but also if those questions are asked at the right time in the right place and it's relevant to what they're looking at or to what their journey is like on the site.
Yeah, what a great point. So I think when the third-party cookie was at its peak, brands didn't really have to do much to get understanding of this audience, to find them, to target them, to know who they were. All these things were just almost magically available through that cookie. Today, if you do nothing else, that cookie cannot give you that same power like it used to before anyway, because it's lost a lot of the magic that it had behind the scenes, and it doesn't cover that many people anymore. So already, or devices, exactly. So already brands have to do more to understand who their customers are. And the minute you start building a relationship with your customers, you start realizing there's way more depth and way more authenticity in you having a direct relationship with them than you learning about them through some other intermediary. And then it starts to feel creepy, right? So like you said this yesterday, I thought that was so powerful, that third party data makes it feel like you are finding out about me and showing me stuff that I wonder, how did you learn this? First party data, especially when I share it with you openly, makes me feel heard, makes me think that, oh, you asked me, you care, and now you're showing me stuff. So brands are already feeling that when they're doing the first party strategy. You mentioned CAPI, Conversion API, that has shown across the board that it's giving you the backup that you need when your cookie doesn't actually send all the data over. So you already have that. And then the first party data with consent gives you all the opportunities for contextual, for audiences, for AI, for just activation when you need it. So I don't see any of that changing with this announcement at all. If anything, it's just validating that we don't have any control, and Google could change their mind again and come back and say, oh, just kidding, we figured it out, we're deprecating the cookie. So you can't be dependent on the technology anymore. You got to think about yourself.
Yeah, and if you can, it's your data. You can control it. You can own it, and that's super important, especially to respect the consumer. If that consumer opts out of tracking, in a third-party world, opting out, like, could you? I mean, sure, you could go to the DMPs in those data providers and go through a lengthy process of trying to remove yourself. But if you're going directly to the brand and saying, hey, here's what I'm interested in, here's what I'm not interested in, or even saying, hey, I don't want to be targeted. You give them that power and you give them that trust and that loyalty. And that just helps brands build a much more loyal base when they're working directly with the customer versus working through some type of, almost like a big brother watching over them about what they're doing and then telling you what they're doing. Nobody wants to feel stopped. They want to feel heard.
I love that. Yeah. So for the listeners, the third-party cookie, while effective, was not a responsible technology. It had security issues. It was misused and overused, and it needed to evolve anyway. That was always going to happen. I think first-party data is clearly the solution, and the way you got to, the direction that will give you the most output down the road. But I feel like today you got to live in both the worlds anyway, in first party and third party, and you have much more control and much more return for the work you put in on the first party side, and the third party side is dependent on other people, third party. So you got to take it as it comes. So I would say, if you're trying to build your own competitive moat, that comes from first party data. That does not come from third party data, and you got to
Right. It's
invest in
more
that
like
anyway.
it's like Swiss cheese. When third-party cookies were getting deprecated and there's just less and less reliability, that Swiss cheese, the holes were getting bigger. But as brands start investing in first-party data, they can fill those holes and have more cheese.
I love it. What analogy! Everybody wants more cheese. That's a great analogy. Okay, so we've been talking very much from the brand's point of view. Let's talk from the consumer's point of view also, right? I feel like let me actually start with you, Jack. So, what if we flip this and look at it from the consumer's point of view? What are they looking for? How are they going to react? What do you think brands should do when thinking about the consumer?
Yeah, and this goes to kind of that metric I brought up earlier that talks, that says 75% of online shoppers are willing to give that data if they know how it will be used, if it is asked to them at a time that's relevant, and that the questions are appropriate. So what consumers want is they want to feel heard. They want to have experiences that are personalized. And they want to do that in a space where they feel it's safe, that they can have a relationship with a brand. And by building that trust, you build customers and you increase their lifetime value. you increase their loyalty. So what brands need to do is, step into the consumer's shoes and, what do we want? We want to feel trust. We want to feel heard. And by brands giving customers the opportunity to share that data, to share that information about them, that's going to facilitate the gathering of more first-party and zero-party data. We've seen brands do preference centers and really expand on those preference centers away from, hey, what's your birthday? What's your email address? What's your phone number? Can we text you? Can we email you? No, they want to know a lot more, and they will provide a lot more. There are brands that I shop at, and they know what size shirt I wear, what size pants I wear. And, what a frustration point I have with a lot of brands, especially in the clothing space, is if I'm shopping and I see a shirt I really like, but they don't have my size, that's frustrating. I'm wasting clicks. I'm getting, distracted. But if they know, hey, Jack is this size and, here's what we have in stock, we'll be able to surface to him what we have in stock in his size so that he's not wasting his time poking around the site. So brands need to build those type of positive experiences for customers to share that data in a transparent way, in a privacy respecting way. Yeah,
I love it. Every time I ask you one of these questions, you have another analogy. I love it. I think the consumer is much more educated on data privacy now than they used to be. I think that's only going to go up across the world, like you said earlier. I think customers have understood that their private data is worth something, and they are starting to be more careful with it. But like you pointed out, if they trust the brand, they will share the data, and they expect value in return, usually a personalized and a better experience. So that is not changing, and you can do much more of that, and you can do it better with first party data than you can with third party anyway. And now zero party data is another sort of subset of first party data that gives you that in the moment, I can ask you a question and immediately give you exactly what you want type of experience, which I think is getting more and more appreciated and fulfilling for the customer as well, for the end consumer. So
you build advocates.
And you build
advocates. Exactly. If you're a shopper, I have a friend who's really obsessed with Nordstrom's app because they really take advantage of a lot of that first party data and use it towards these positive experiences. Now that person's talking to me about it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to talk to somebody else about it. So you build those advocates, you build that customer lifetime value by giving them these positive experiences where you're asking questions and you're giving back stuff that's relevant to them. And I think that's where AI is going to come in big as well.
100%. Yeah. So just to recap for the listeners, right? From a technology point of view, the Google announcement does not mean anything is going to change in the other way, meaning going back towards third-party cookies. It's going to, in fact, keep moving with Privacy Sandbox towards first-party data. From a consumer point of view, they want transparency and data privacy and consent, and they want to be heard, and they want to know what data you're collecting and how you're using it. That's first-party data. That's not third-party data. From a market point of view, you don't have access to all your customers through the third-party cookie, and the third-party cookie is not as impactful as it used to be. So you need first-party data from a market point of view, an industry point of view anyway. And then you throw in AI and data privacy, and you have no choice but to invest in first-party data. So net of the Google announcement, don't change anything going back towards third-party data. If you're doing it, keep doing it. If you're moving towards first-party data, keep moving in that direction. I don't think that you can't put the genie back in the bottle. The train has left the station. Use whichever metaphor you want, but they're all appropriate. So thank you, Jack. I want to ask you one last question as we end, okay? What do you think will happen as we look down the road? Where do you think this is going?
I mean, we're not going to stop talking about third-party cookies, and we are going to get to a point, crystal ball, maybe 3 to 5 years away from now, where third-party cookies truly will be deprecated, because we've been able to kind of take the pressure off a little bit, build out these great solutions like what the direction Google's going in with Privacy Sandbox and the featured capabilities of that. So as the pressure releases a little bit, innovation can really thrive, and we'll get to the point where third-party cookies will be deprecated, but it will be replaced by technologies that are trusted and that can scale in the way that third-party cookies did, but in a way that's privacy compliant, that consumers, again, don't feel stalked, they feel heard. So we're not done talking about this. It's going to keep going, but as we move forward, first-party data, zero-party data, that's where businesses are truly going to get value and provide value back to their customers.
I love it. And yeah, I think the innovation and the evolution of the industry is going to continue. I think that we will see a lot more discussion about Privacy Sandbox, and Chrome is going to be part of the conversation. And you can bet that Apple is going to lean in very heavily now to the privacy message. And we're just going to be talking about this for a long time, like you said, Jack. So with that, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for reaching out. I'm Sav Ketan from Tealium. This is Jack Pace from Zion and Zion, and we are grateful for your time. Thank you.